Hi, welcome to part 2 of using the Splunk add-on for Citrix Cloud. In this part, I'll demonstrate gathering the site IDs for virtual apps and desktops users in both a bit of a quick and dirty way as well as in a programmatic RESTful way, and then I'll demonstrate adding those site IDs to the add-on itself. We can start in the virtual apps and desktops service within the Citrix Cloud. And if we click on logging and then the APIs tab, this will actually show us all of the API calls against the virtual apps and desktop service. And if we look at the request headers that are part of that, we'll see a Citrix customer ID as well as the instance ID of the site that we're currently managing. So what this doesn't show us is the name of the site, but it does give us the instance ID. So this is actually enough to go on. We can harvest this and we know that the site that we're in is that instance ID. However, it may be more beneficial to recover this information programmatically if you want to update values dynamically or integrate this into a continuous improvement type of process. And if you would like to do that, you could use a number of tools. I'm just using Postman for kind of ease of digestion. You could use curl or Python or anything else that has a RESTful interface. So there's two parts to gathering site information. The first is to gather a token from the authentication service, and you can see here that I have a post request to a particular endpoint, and this is documented within the documentation. The online documentation for the cloud APIs. We can see generating bearer tokens is a step that's available there. So I'm going to go ahead and generate that bearer token using the client ID and secret that we generated in part 1. Click send, and that will give us back a token. Here's that access token. This will act as our key for authenticating into future API calls. So I'll copy that, and then the next step would be to hit the endpoint for gathering site details. So I've already set that up here. It's a GET request to this REST endpoint, and the only header that's really required here, or the two headers, are the authorization token, which is that token that I just generated. I'll paste that in here. And then the customer ID, which again is Home83 that I mentioned in part 1. So now if I click send and issue that request, we'll see that I get back the information about my account as well as what the ID of that account is. And here I actually have the name of the site and that GUID that we saw in the previous step. So if you needed to recover these pieces of information, you had multiple sites or had for some reason to change this, you can pull these programmatically RESTfully. So now that we have this ID, I'm going to go ahead and copy that, save it off somewhere else. We can go over to the TA, the add-on, and we are in the same spot we were before when we configured it in part 1. And so we have the cloud account details, but now we want to add site details. So here I'm going to go ahead and add a site. And this is just an arbitrary label. I think I called it Cloud XD service or something like that, something along those lines. Cloud XD site. It doesn't matter, it doesn't have to match, but just for consistency's sake. And then I'll paste that in there. There's also a link to gathering those site IDs here in the helper text. So go ahead and add that. And now the add-on is configured for both pulling information from the cloud in general, and now also being able to pull from specific virtual apps and desktop sites. And so we'll go ahead and configure the actual inputs in parts 3, 4, and 5. Thanks very much.